from first short to first feature took 10 years. I think if you'd have told me when I finished my first short, that's going to be 10 years before you make your feature, I would have ran for the hills.
But I do think like there are so many kind of programs out there, like the Sundance Labs, the Torino Film Labs, Film London, the BFI Network. Like there are many opportunities now to kind of get pockets of money and to meet other filmmakers and to meet crew. And I think it's really important for newer filmmakers, young filmmakers, to kind of really engage with those groups, because that so much of my own education came through doing Guiding Lights or doing the BFI Network kind of a weekend away. And, you know, it's where you kind of meet other filmmakers. So much of our time when we're developing and writing is like we're by ourselves. And, you know, it's important to kind of find your filmmaker friends as well, because you're all kind of going through the same shit. And yeah. So, yeah, engage with those things.
Between doing the shorts and the feature, I did episode of TV and then a series for TV, a set up a series. And I feel like what I learned from that experience of going from shorts to TV to feature, shorts are like a sprint, and I mean a hard, intense sprint, but there's something about making TV, especially if you're setting up an entire series, it's like a marathon. And there's something of the energy of that feels very similar to feature. But there's something about TV that is both a sprint and a marathon at the same time. I think, you know, because especially if you're doing the lower end of TV, you could be shooting anything from like 6 to maybe 9 pages a day. On feature, you know, you'd hope you'd maybe be shooting maybe what, 4 or 5 a day, 5 pages. So like it's much more luxurious in terms of time, whereas TV, it teaches you to be fast, but you don't want to get caught in that you lose your precision and what your voice is. So it's this really interesting balance. It was interesting, like when I left school, I did generals with a number of production companies, and I was being paired with feature projects as a director with maybe another writer's project. And we went into film for BFI, and it never fitted. And the thing that kept on coming back was, but Kathy, what story is it? What do you want to tell? What do you want to do? And then I think having done the TV and not doing my own work, it made me really hungry to go, no, what is it? What is it that I want to do? Because I can't do that with a feature. I have to put all myself into it. So I think there's those questions that you find along the way, and you have to answer. No one else can answer them but yourself.
And when I was at uni, I was desperate. Although I was making kind of films with my year group, I wanted to get on to, you know, professional sets, and I was desperate to kind of get experience. And they also, you know, the tutors were also like, you know, go and get work experience. And I emailed so many people, and I found it very difficult to get onto film sets. And so actually what I did was I signed up to an extras agency. And so when I was at like through my first and second year at uni and third year, I would kind of, I think I was on like one of the Bourne films as an extra. I mean, you don't see me obviously, but it was a really great way of kind of getting on set and just kind of having no responsibility, but like being fed, being told to stand somewhere and just being able to listen. And I loved that, because you're seeing like kind of the magic of like these really big kind of crazy films and how they work, and how also like the good habits and the bad habits of, you know, the way that people speak to each other. So it was a real education being kind of a voyeur in that space. There's not enough crew, and actually and there's a lot of big money now that is actually taking a lot of kind of film talent away from filmmakers. And actually it's quite a competitive industry now. It's very hard to actually find those people because they're all working. So I think now more than ever, actually, it's kind of if you're at film school or you know you have friends that are interested in making film, I think now's actually a really great opportunity to get that experience on those shows, because they're really desperate to kind of level people up and to have them working. And I think getting any on-set experience is great. Ultimately, making films is about discovering the originality of your voice, and ultimately that's the only thing that you've got. You know, we can all learn technique, but I don't think you can't learn your voice, you know. And I think that's the thing, that making shorts, fundamentally, that's what makes it different to doing commercials or you know, working on someone else's thing is it's about finding yourself and putting your stamp, and collaboration is key in that, but it's also about refining how you want to work as a filmmaker, as a director, how you want to tell your stories. That's a really important part of the process too. You will have lots of people that will tell you this is the way that you should do this, and sometimes that is the way you should do it. And it's really hard when your gut says one thing and someone else says something different to know where to go. Ideally, you get to do a bit of both, but my advice is that you always stick to your guts, because the reality is, if your film totally sucks, you probably won't get to make another one. And if you're not gonna get to make another film, you want it to be because of you, and not because you listened to someone else, because how frustrating would that be?
From first short to first feature took 10 years. I think if you'd have told me when I finished my first short that's going to be 10 years before you make your feature, I would have ran for the hills. However, I can stand by my first feature and say, do you know what? We made it in an unusual way. I feel like I've lived many lifetimes making that feature for various reasons. I'm incredibly proud of it. It just took the time, and it took me getting to a certain place in my life to command that budget, to know what that story would feel like. And I think what I would say is, whatever your feature is, you gotta love it. You gotta be obsessed with it, because you could be in development like for 5 years. You could be, but you still need to evolve with it. So have you got the story that you can evolve with? Now, not everyone's going to take 5 years to make their feature. Some people might be luckier. But I do think, once you've made it, you're going to go out and you're going to talk about it at festivals. You're going to meet an audience. So I'd say is find what you want to tell and have patience, and you'll be resilient when you really love it.
I think it can feel so frightening, thinking, I don't know how to do this. I might mess this up. I might make a terrible error. And that's when having, people around you that you can trust to ask questions when you're not sure, when you really don't know the answer, and you feel you're supposed to perform to some people that you do know the answer. I think that part's really important. And you're going to make mistakes every time, and you're going to learn something different every time. And I was speaking with some filmmakers earlier this week in a mentoring scheme, and they were asking to be paired with a producer who knew how to do things that they didn't, but they only didn't know how to do them because they hadn't done them yet. And I think, have faith in yourself. There's so much of this is about sort of going out and exploring and talking to people and research and being so proactive. And, I'm really interested in sort of making sure that everybody I work with, including myself, has the opportunity to do that sustainably, because without some magical private source of income, that's extremely difficult. But I think it is about that. If you can create an environment in which you have the time to think and explore and ask and learn and follow up with people and just make discoveries, that's where your knowledge comes from. That's, and that's a wonderful, empowering process.
Quite similar to Kathy, actually. Like when I was writing, it was getting out of London. I mean, I live in London, and it was getting out of London and going to the countryside and being alone. Like, I think solitude is the best thing for creativity, and for you, and being in nature, I think, is just something that's really, really good to have that time to yourself. When
we finished Small Change, I wanted to get it properly graded. So I went to a local post house and asked them, would he do me a favor? I had a small bit of money, so I offered some money. I think this is the tool. You offer some money because it shows value. He said, that is all I can have. That's all I can give you. And I promise I'll come back to you, with other projects. I come back to him with my TV series, with my feature. So, it's an exchange, when the person who opens their doors and they give you a service, I think you come back.
But always, even if it was a horrible experience, always give them like a nice bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne or something to recognize that they've helped you out when they didn't need to. I think that's really important to do that. It's just a kind of a common kind of courtesy.
Directorial role, would you say, gives you the best insight into the director's job?
What other role other than the director?
Yeah.
Editor.
Can I say as a producer what gets me excited about a project? It's when someone has a really clear vision, they have a sense of how they want to drive things forward, how they're going to drive things forward, and they approach the process collaboratively, and they're really excited about what it means to work in a team and everybody to bring their creativity and their skills together. The number of people who contact me and say, I really want some money, and can you do all this stuff for me because I just want to do the fun part. That's just not how it works, and that doesn't appeal to anybody. So I think a really clear vision and a passion and a drive to move it forward, plus a collaborative approach is what works in my case.
Contact BAFTA, contact Skillset, contact BFI Network, contact Film London. Like, these are organizations that only survive if there is new blood kind of surging through their veins. So you need to kind of be getting in touch with them and saying, you know, where can I find a space?